4:12 a.m. never belonged to the living. A house held its own kind of night at that hour, the kind that turned every creak into a warning and every shadow into a memory. The grandfather clock in the hallway carried on with stubborn dignity, its pendulum cutting the darkness into pieces. The kitchen smelled faintly of dish soap and cold coffee. The air still carried funeral flowers, sweet and wrong, like perfume in a hospital. At 73, sleep came in fragile stretches. It arrived late, left early, and returned with sharp elbows. That night it had barely settled when the phone lit up on the desk beside the recliner. One vibration, then another. A voicemail notification. From a number that no longer should have existed. My son's number. I stared at the screen until my eyes watered. The funeral had been yesterday. The last hymn still rang in my ears. The last handshake still clung to my palm like a bruise. The last view of the closed casket still sat behind my eyelids. Caleb Carter, born with lungs loud enough to startle the nurses, raised on scraped knees and stubborn pride, buried under a sky that refused to rain. My thumb hovered over play. The room seemed to lean forward, listening with me. A click, a burst of wind noise, then a voice. Not a similar voice, not a memory, not a recording from a family video. Caleb's voice, older, tired, close to the microphone, as if he had hidden in a closet with the door pressed against his shoulder. Dad, if this reaches you, the worst already happened. Harbor Storage, Unit 27. Key inside the fake sprinkler head in my truck. Go before sunrise. No police, no lawyers, no one from the Whitmore Foundation. If you hear anyone behind you, leave. Leave fast. The message ended with 3 short taps, the rhythm Caleb used when he needed my attention as a kid. 2 quick knocks, 1 slow. A private language built in years that no one else should have known. My mouth went dry. My heart took 1 hard step and refused the next. The funeral had been yesterday. Caleb's truck sat at the impound lot. Harbor Storage stood 20 minutes away, across the river near the shipping yards. Unit 27, the fake sprinkler head, the Whitmore Foundation. The clock ticked on, indifferent. I replayed the voicemail. Again. Again. The words stayed the same. The taps stayed the same. If this reaches you, the worst already happened. The worst already happened. My hands started shaking. Not the old man tremble that arrived with cold mornings, but a different kind. The kind that came from standing too close to a ledge. The living room felt smaller, tighter. The funeral program lay on the coffee table with Caleb's photo. His smile frozen in a moment that now felt like theft. In that picture, he looked confident, unbreakable, the kind of man who would live to 80 and still argue about how to fix an engine. That man had not been the one I last saw. The last time I saw Caleb alive, he had been in the hospital, face bruised, wrist bandaged, insisting he had only slipped on ice. His eyes had held something else, though. A locked door. A plea he did not know how to make. 2 days later, the official story arrived. Late-night crash on the service road near the docks. A single vehicle collision. No witnesses, no foul play. A clean ending. Too clean. I pulled on jeans and a flannel shirt, fingers clumsy with panic. Keys, wallet, flashlight. The old revolver stayed in the drawer. A weapon felt like a lie. The voicemail had already turned my world into one. Outside, the air bit through my clothes. Michigan in early March held winter like a grudge. The driveway sparkled with a thin crust of ice. The neighborhood slept, porch lights dark, curtains drawn. My truck started on the second turn, engine coughing like it remembered every mile I had pleaded it to carry. The dashboard clock read 4:28 a.m. The road to harbor storage cut past strip malls and shuttered diners, past the river where the current moved like black oil, past the industrial lots where cranes stood like skeletons. My headlights swept over patches of fog, and each time the beam caught something moving, my chest tightened. A sedan appeared in my mirror after the third stoplight. Dark paint, no front plate. It kept distance, steady, patient. I turned right when I normally turned left. The sedan turned right. I drove 2 blocks and turned again. The sedan followed, smooth as breath. The voicemail had warned me. If you hear anyone behind you, leave. Leave fast. My hands clenched around the steering wheel until my knuckles turned pale. A part of me wanted to floor it, to run for the police station, to pound on the door of the first building with lights on. Another part of me heard Caleb's taps and felt my spine stiffen. A father did not abandon a message from his dead son, not when it carried that kind of fear. I kept driving. A freight train rumbled across an overpass ahead, the iron scream of wheels echoing through the night. I took the ramp to the access road beneath it, then cut into a service lane lined with chain-link fences and stacked shipping containers. The sedan hesitated at the ramp, rolling slower, as if uncertain. I used the moment. A tight turn behind a warehouse, then another behind a dumpster, then a final cut through an open gate that led to a gravel lot. The sedan's headlights flashed once, then disappeared. My breath came out in harsh clouds. My heart hammered against my ribs like it wanted out. Harbor storage stood at the edge of the lot, a long rectangle of corrugated metal with rows of roll-up doors and a single office window glowing dimly. A security camera above the entrance rotated in slow arcs, sleepy but watching. I parked 2 rows away and sat still, listening. No sedan engine, no footsteps. Only distant water, distant machinery, the low hum of the city pretending nothing was wrong. I climbed out and walked with deliberate slowness, forcing my legs to move like a man with a purpose instead of a man with terror in his throat. Gravel crunched under my boots. The cold sharpened every sound. A keypad guarded the gate. A posted sign warned of cameras and trespassing charges and prosecution. Another sign advertised climate-controlled units like Comfort could be rented by the month. I found a gap at the base of the fence where the ground had washed out, a weakness Caleb would have noticed. I dropped to my knees, slid my flashlight ahead, and crawled under, jacket scraping against metal. On the other side, my breath sounded too loud. Unit numbers ran down the doors in faded black paint. 20, 21, 22. A thin line of frost clung to the metal like lace. Unit 27 waited near the back, where the security lights flickered as if tired. A padlock hung from the latch. New, shiny, not Caleb's. My stomach sank. A second lock sat beneath it, also new. Someone had already come. The voicemail had been a race, and I had started late. I moved to the unit next to it, crouched between doors, and swept my flashlight beam across the seams. No pry marks, no bent metal. Whoever locked it had access. Whoever locked it wanted time. I needed the key. The fake sprinkler head in Caleb's truck. Caleb's truck was in impound. The impound lot was 10 miles away. The sedan could return at any moment. The clock could strike daylight and bring workers, cameras, witnesses. I forced my mind into motion. Caleb had expected obstacles. Caleb had expected danger. That meant he had built backups. I searched the ground near Unit 27, scanning for anything out of place. A loose screw, a shifted stone, a scrap of tape. Near the bottom edge of the door, a single bolt looked newer than the others, the metal brighter, the washer untouched by rust. A small thing. The kind of detail Caleb used to notice when he fixed a carburetor. I pressed my finger against it. It wiggled. My pulse jumped. I pulled a multi-tool from my pocket, the old one Caleb had given me for Father's Day years back. The blade felt familiar in my hand, a reminder that my son had once expected a lifetime of ordinary days. The bolt turned easily. One twist, two, three. Behind it, taped to the inside of the door seam, a small plastic bag waited, folded tight. Inside the bag, a key, a storage key, the kind used for internal cylinder locks. Relief surged so hard it hurt. I slid the key into the lock beneath the padlocks, the one built into the door handle. It turned with a soft click. The padlock still held the latch from the outside, but the door itself now had slack. Enough slack to lift it a few inches. I gripped the bottom edge and pulled. Cold air rushed out from the gap, carrying a smell of oil and cardboard and something sour. A car battery smell. A burned wire smell. The space beyond remained dark. I widened the gap just enough to slide my flashlight beam inside. Boxes, a tarp, a rolling tool chest, a set of shelves, and in the center, a cheap folding table holding a single manila envelope. On top of the envelope, a sticky note with Caleb's handwriting. Dad. No delays. Take the envelope. Leave the rest. I reached in, snatched the envelope, and pulled it through the gap like I was stealing from a fire. The moment the envelope hit my hands, a distant engine revved. Headlights swept across the rows. The sedan. My muscles locked for a fraction of a second, then my body moved on instinct. I shoved the envelope inside my jacket, dropped to the ground, and crawled back toward the fence. The lights glided closer, slow, searching. A door opened. A man's silhouette stepped out, tall, shoulders broad, the posture of someone used to rooms obeying him. A second figure followed, slimmer, quick, scanning the rows like a predator hunting scent. I crawled under the fence gap, gravel biting my palms. My jacket snagged on wire. I yanked free. The figures moved nearer. Their footsteps reached the gate. A quiet clink. Keys. My lungs burned. My heartbeat filled my ears. I slid into my truck, turned the key, and held my breath. The engine caught on the first turn, loud in the stillness. Headlights snapped toward me. I threw the truck into reverse, tires spitting gravel, then swung around and accelerated toward the exit, praying the gate was still open. It was. I burst onto the road and kept going, not toward home, but toward the river bridge, toward traffic cameras, toward anywhere with witnesses. Behind me, headlights appeared, then fell back, then surged again. A chase in the dark. A father in an old truck with a manila envelope and a grief that had hardened into purpose. I took the next exit toward the downtown grid, where roads narrowed and lights multiplied. If they wanted a clean disappearance, I planned to make it messy. The headlights behind me held for 3 blocks, then vanished at a red light, as if the driver had decided attention was too expensive. I did not slow. I drove until my hands stopped shaking enough to open the envelope. I pulled into the parking lot of an all-night diner near the courthouse, a place filled with truckers and nurses and insomniacs. Bright fluorescent lights, windows that faced the street, people who would notice if something happened. Inside, the smell of bacon and coffee hit like a memory of normal life. I slid into a booth near the window and placed the envelope on the table. My fingers hovered over the flap. Caleb had hidden this in the hours before he died, or in the days, or in the moments when he realized the floor beneath him was collapsing. I opened it. Inside, a flash drive taped to a folded sheet of paper, and beneath it, a printout of emails, bank records, and a single photograph. The photograph froze my breath. Caleb in a parking garage, face half lit by a neon sign, standing beside a woman I recognized immediately. Vanessa Whitmore, chair of the Whitmore Foundation. Her smile looked practiced, the kind used for cameras and donors. Caleb's expression looked tight, as if he had swallowed something sharp. On the back of the photo, a date and time. 2 nights before his death. Beneath the photo, the sheet of paper held Caleb's handwriting in block letters. Dad, this is not an accident. If anything happens, the Whitmores clean it. Unit 27 holds backups. The flash drive holds the full chain. Do not trust anyone who benefits from my death. If the voicemail reached you, the trigger fired. Find Elena Park. She can publish without fear. If this goes wrong, protect Lily. Lily, my granddaughter. Caleb's daughter, 8 years old, living with her mother in Grand Rapids. The child who had stood at the funeral in a black dress too big for her, clutching a stuffed rabbit, eyes wide and dry like she had wept herself empty. Protect Lily. My stomach tightened. I slid the flash drive into my pocket like it was a live wire. The printouts showed a trail, charitable donations moving through shell nonprofits, ending in private consulting fees and real estate purchases. The Whitmore Foundation logo appeared on every page like a stamp of innocence. Names appeared in the emails: a city councilman, a Port Authority director, a judge, and one name that made my hands go cold. Detective Frank Ralston, the detective who had handled Caleb's crash, the detective who had looked me in the eye at the hospital and assured me the case was straightforward. A clean ending. Too clean. My coffee arrived. The waitress placed it down with a tired smile. You look like you haven't slept in a week. I forced a nod, a thank you, anything that would pass for normal. My mind worked the way it used to during plant shutdowns, when a line stopped and everyone waited for the foreman to figure out where the break was. Calm on the outside, fast on the inside. Caleb wanted Elena Park. I knew the name. A reporter from the local investigative outlet, Harbor Ledger. Caleb had brought up her once at Thanksgiving, admiration in his voice, frustration too. A journalist, a witness, a megaphone. If the Whitmores owned police and courts, light was the only weapon left. My phone hovered in my hand. A number search, a contact form, a message sent into the void. The first sunlight began to thin the night outside, turning the sky from black to bruised gray. I typed a short message. Caleb left a voicemail after his funeral. Evidence points to the Whitmores. Meeting needed. Urgent. Safe public place. I hit send. Then I drove to the impound lot. The lot sat behind a chain-link fence topped with razor wire, a fortress for wrecks and mistakes. A clerk at the window squinted at my paperwork, then slid a clipboard across without looking up. I signed, careful, steady. The clerk buzzed the gate. Caleb's truck sat in the far row, dented on the passenger side, windshield cracked, mud splattered along the wheel wells. It looked like a tool that had been thrown away. I opened the driver door. The smell of Caleb hit me, faint cologne and pine air freshener, like a ghost that refused to leave. The dashboard held a little plastic sprinkler head near the defrost vents, a joke decoration Caleb had installed after a minor argument with his ex about the lawn sprinklers. He had laughed when he put it there, a ridiculous thing in a work truck. I twisted it. It loosened. Inside, another key. A small notebook. A folded piece of paper with an address. The notebook held dates, names, short notes, code words. It looked like the kind of thing someone kept when every fact mattered and every witness could vanish. The address belonged to a building downtown, Whitmore Foundation headquarters. My phone vibrated. A new message. Unknown number. A single line. Stop digging, Ray. My skin prickled. Only a handful of people used my full first name. Caleb had. My wife had. The old crew at the plant. Someone knew exactly who I was, exactly where I had gone. The sedan had followed me. Now the text followed too. I drove straight to the public library. Not because I needed books, but because libraries carried safety in their bones. Cameras, guards, strangers, rules. Quiet places where chaos looked out of place. I sat at a computer terminal, plugged in the flash drive, and opened the first file. A folder labeled Whitmore Chain Final. Inside, audio recordings, screenshots, spreadsheets, and a video file titled Garage_meeting. I opened the video. The camera angle looked hidden, perhaps from a car dash or a pocket. Caleb's voice came through, controlled, low. Vanessa Whitmore's voice followed, polished and calm. A private conversation, not meant for anyone else. Words emerged that made my blood run cold. Payoff amounts, names of officials, a reference to the boat plan as a contingency, and a sentence that carved itself into my chest. Accidents stay clean when the right people keep them clean. The video ended with footsteps and a car door closing. I sat frozen as the library's air conditioner hummed, as pages turned in distant aisles, as the world continued to pretend. Caleb had been negotiating with a lion, or recording it. My phone vibrated again. Another message, this time from Elena Park. Where? Now? Public. I chose the police precinct lobby. A cruel choice, a daring one, maybe a foolish one. But if the Whitmores expected me to hide, the best move was a place nobody would dare stage a scene. Elena arrived 10 minutes later, coat open, hair pulled back, eyes sharp. Early 30s, confident posture, the look of someone who had learned to stay calm in storms. She slid into the chair beside mine. Her gaze flicked to my hands, then to the door, then to the security camera above the bulletin board. Voicemail after the funeral. My throat tightened. A nod. Evidence. I passed her the flash drive under the table, wrapped in a napkin like a secret. Her fingers closed around it. Her eyes stayed on my face. Full context. Start from the start. The story poured out in clipped fragments. The voicemail, the storage unit, the sedan, the envelope, the flash drive, the detective name, the threats. Elena's jaw tightened at the mention of Detective Ralston. Her gaze shifted toward the hallway that led deeper into the precinct. Inside person. Inside people. She exhaled slowly, then leaned forward, voice low enough to stay within the booth of privacy created by fluorescent hum. Publishing alone could get buried. Courts can gag, police can stall. One path leaves fewer breaks. Her eyes held mine. Federal. The word hit like a door opening. Elena, I'm a retired maintenance supervisor. I don't know federal agents. You do now. Her phone moved in her hand. A message tapped out. A number dialed. Elena's voice stayed controlled, professional, no drama. A request for a meeting. A reference to public corruption, homicide, and evidence on a drive. A name dropped. Whitmore Foundation. Her call ended. She slid the phone back into her coat. 30 minutes. Across the street. Coffee shop with a glass front. We left the precinct lobby like ordinary people with ordinary problems. Outside, the morning had fully arrived. Pale sun reflecting off wet pavement. Cars flowed through the intersection. People carried cups and backpacks and normal lives. The coffee shop smelled warm and safe. A table near the window gave visibility to the street. A woman entered 15 minutes later. Plain coat, no visible badge, hair tucked under a beanie. She carried herself like someone who did not need noise to command a room. She sat across from Elena and me, hands folded. Special Agent Maren Holt. Her eyes scanned us, then the window, then the camera above the register. Elena Park. Ray Carter. A brief nod. Evidence. Elena slid the flash drive across the table in a plain envelope. Maren did not touch it immediately. Her gaze stayed on me. Why now? The question held weight. A test. The response rose from the part of me that had been quiet for years, the part grief had sharpened. Because a voicemail arrived after the funeral. Marin's eyes narrowed, not disbelief, but calculation. Elena, take the drive to our field office. Create copies. Chain of custody begins now. Ray, keep your phone. Keep it on. No hero moves. No hero moves. The phrase landed like a warning. Marin continued. Whitmore Foundation sits in our files already. Donations to elected officials. Unusual influence. Allegations without proof. Your son created proof. My chest tightened at the phrase, your son. Marin's phone buzzed. She checked it once, then stood. 2 agents shadow you from a distance. If a tail appears again, do not attempt escapes. Keep moving toward populated areas. Any direct threat becomes a call to 911 and my number. A card slid across the table. Numbers printed in black. My life had become a case. Marin left. Elena left with the drive, moving fast, focused. I remained alone for a moment, staring at the coffee's surface as if it held answers. Then my phone rang. A familiar number. Detective Frank Ralston. The pit of my stomach turned. I let it ring twice, 3 times. Then my thumb moved. Mr. Carter, Frank Ralston, need a word. Very important. His tone carried false concern, smooth and practiced. My mouth stayed dry, my voice came out flat. Important now. Your son's belongings, some items found. Need you to come down, sign paperwork. A trap dressed in procedure. Email the paperwork. A pause, irritation barely masked. Policy requires in-person. Policy can wait. Another pause, colder this time. Fine. Another matter. Security footage from the night of the crash. A new angle. Might change the report. Come down. Discuss. My skin prickled. A new angle. Or a new lie. No. Silence. Then a shift in his tone, less friendly. Mr. Carter, please. Cooperation helps closure. Closure. The word felt like a weapon. Closure arrived at the cemetery. The lines stayed silent, then clicked off. My hands trembled again, not from fear alone, but from anger that had nowhere to go. My phone lit with a text a minute later. You have Lily, right? My breath caught. My granddaughter. They were watching. They were already moving toward the child Caleb had warned me about. I drove to Grand Rapids with my foot heavy on the gas. Lily lived with her mother, Jenna Morales, in a small duplex near a park. Jenna had once been Caleb's love, then his heartbreak, then his co-parent. Their relationship had ended badly, but they had managed Lily together with a tense truce. Jenna opened the door with sleepy eyes and a robe pulled tight, confusion on her face. Ray? What's happening? I stepped inside, shutting the door quickly. Lily safe. Always. A nod toward the hallway where Lily slept. Jenna's expression tightened. Fear caught up. This is about Caleb. A slow nod. A kitchen table, 2 mugs of tea. The story delivered in careful pieces, keeping the most dangerous parts wrapped until Jenna understood the stakes. At the mention of the Whitmores, Jenna's face went pale. I met Vanessa once, at that charity gala. Caleb hated it. He called it theater. The word theater felt right. At the mention of the threatening texts, Jenna's hands tightened around her mug. Police? Not local. Elena's name, Marin Holt's name. The idea of federal oversight. Jenna exhaled, relief mixed with terror. What do you need? Lily stays with you, but safety rules. No school pickup alone, no public posts, no routine. If a strange car sits outside, call me. Jenna nodded, eyes wet. And you. Work to finish. Jenna's gaze dropped to the table. A long pause. Caleb's voicemail, the taps, the storage unit. The truth settling like heavy snow. Jenna's voice finally emerged, thin, controlled. He knew. He knew they were coming. He prepared. Too late. The grief hit Jenna hard. Her shoulders shook. Tears fell into the mug. I stayed quiet, letting the pain exist without being dressed up. When Jenna steadied, she reached into a drawer and pulled out a small envelope. Caleb left this with me last month. For emergencies. He never laid out. Inside, a second flash drive, a keycard, and a note with 3 words. If I vanish. My chest tightened. Elena's message arrived as I slid the envelope into my pocket. Drive copied, files real, video strong, another file hidden in Unit 27. Need it, Unit 27 again. The first run had yielded the envelope and drive, but Caleb had warned. Take the envelope. Leave the rest. Backups remained. The Whitmores had locked it. Now federal eyes existed, but time still mattered. Marin Holt's follow-up arrived. Unit 27 can be accessed with a warrant within 24 hours. If evidence destroyed before then, recovery complicated. Do not attempt solo entry, 24 hours. A long time in a world where locks appeared overnight. I sat in Jenna's kitchen, staring at the second flash drive. If I vanish. A dead man's switch. Caleb had built layers. The keycard's logo caught my eye. Whitmore Plaza parking, the garage, the meeting location from the photo, a private office building with security. The keycard likely opened something. A locker, a cabinet, a storage cage. Maybe the missing piece. A memory surfaced. Caleb's truck decoration. The fake sprinkler head. A man who hid keys inside jokes. Caleb had hidden evidence inside the Whitmores' own fortress, the kind of move that carried both brilliance and desperation. Marin's instruction echoed. No hero moves, but Caleb's note demanded movement. If the evidence vanished, Lily's future could vanish too. I did not have the luxury of waiting for perfect. I drove to Whitmore Plaza that afternoon. The building rose above downtown like a polished lie, glass and steel reflecting the sky. A banner on the facade displayed the Whitmore Foundation's latest campaign. Hope on the Water. Scholarships for youth. Community. Legacy. Legacy. My son's grave held a different kind of legacy. The parking garage entrance sat beside a security booth. A gate arm blocked entry. I pulled in behind a line of cars and waited. When my turn arrived, I held the keycard out the window. The guard barely glanced, waved me through. The gate lifted. Inside, the concrete levels spiraled downward, lit by fluorescent strips that hummed like insects. Cameras perched on corners. I parked on level 3 near a row of reserved spaces labeled Foundation. My hands went cold. I walked toward the stairwell, scanning for anything that looked like a locker bank or a maintenance closet. Near the elevator bank, a wall of small metal doors appeared, each with a keypad. Secure parcel lockers. A sign, Whitmore Staff Delivery. The keycard had a magnetic strip, a slot beside the keypad. I slid the card through. A green light. Locker 14 clicked open. Inside waited a small black zip bag. My breath caught. I pulled it out and closed the locker. The bag's contents felt heavy. I moved quickly toward the stairwell, trying to look like someone who belonged. A voice behind me stopped the air in my lungs. Ray Carter. I turned. Vanessa Whitmore stood near the elevator, hair perfect, coat tailored, eyes bright with controlled friendliness. The kind of friendliness that hid teeth. Beside her, a man in a dark suit, younger, shoulders squared, gaze sharp. Marcus Whitmore, the predatory brother, the name from Caleb's voicemail. Time narrowed. Vanessa smiled as if we had met at a gala instead of at the edge of a nightmare. Such a difficult week. Such a loss. My mouth felt full of metal. Her gaze dropped to the zip bag in my hand. Personal items. Memorabilia. Grief does strange things. Marcus shifted his weight, a subtle move that blocked the stairwell. Vanessa's voice stayed soft. Caleb had been confused. He went down a path. He placed himself in danger. My heart hammered. My phone sat in my pocket, screen dark. 2 agents shadowing from a distance, Marin had swore. Shadowing did not equal rescue in a garage. Vanessa stepped closer, smile still in place. Hand the bag over. Nothing in there belongs to you. Caleb's taps echoed in my head. 2 quick knocks, 1 slow, a private language, a warning. My voice emerged rough. My son left me a voicemail after his funeral. Vanessa's smile flickered for a fraction of a second. Marcus's eyes narrowed, a crack in their armor. Vanessa's tone shifted slightly, less velvet, more steel. Voicemail services exist. People schedule messages. Grief makes patterns feel like miracles. A small step closer. Marcus's hand near his jacket pocket. The garage suddenly felt too empty, too quiet, as if the city had agreed to look away. I forced air into my lungs. Federal already has copies. A gamble, a bluff, or a truth, depending on timing. Vanessa froze, smile locked in place. Marcus's jaw tightened. Federal. The word carried weight even here. Vanessa recovered first, eyes cool. Interesting fantasy. A pause. Then her gaze turned almost kind, as if speaking to an old man about to make a mistake. Go home, Ray. Hold your granddaughter. Grieve in peace. Let this go. Let this go. The phrase sounded like a shove toward a cliff. I shifted the zip bag behind my leg, a small move. My other hand slid into my pocket, fingers closing around my phone. A vibration. A message from Elena. Warrant team mobilizing. Stay alive. Stay alive. I met Vanessa's eyes. My son did not die in an accident. Vanessa's lips parted slightly, then closed. Her expression flattened. The mask slipped. Marcus moved forward, voice low. Old man, don't create trouble. Trouble. A word used by people who benefited from quiet. I lifted my phone, screen facing them. A live video call to Marin Holt, already connected, her face visible, eyes alert. Marin's voice came through the speaker, calm and sharp. Vanessa Whitmore, Marcus Whitmore. This line recorded. Step away from Ray Carter. Vanessa's expression turned to stone. Marcus stopped mid-step. The garage felt suddenly brighter. A second later, footsteps pounded down the stairwell behind Vanessa. 2 federal agents appeared, jackets open, hands visible but ready. Vanessa's smile returned, thin and brittle. Agent Holt. Always a pleasure. What an unfortunate misunderstanding. Marin's voice carried through the phone. Unfortunate is one word. The agents moved between us. Space returned to the room. My knees threatened to fold with relief. Vanessa's gaze stayed on the zip bag. What is that? Marin's voice. Evidence that belongs to a grand jury now. Vanessa's eyes flashed. Marcus's nostrils flared. The agents escorted me out, not through the elevators, but up the stairwell to street level, toward daylight and crowds. My hands shook the entire way. In the field office, the zip bag opened on a metal table under bright lights. Inside, a burner phone, a stack of printed bank transfers, a thumb drive labeled Boat Plan, and a small notebook with Marcus Whitmore's handwriting. The notebook held dates and instructions, routes, times, names, and one phrase repeated in the margins like a mantra. Keep it clean. Marin Holt's expression tightened. This changes everything. Elena watched from the corner, eyes wide. Marin turned to me. Your son baited them. He positioned evidence where it forced direct contact. He anticipated the grab. Caleb's brilliance burning like a flare. Marin continued. A grand jury moves fast with this, but a public confession ends defenses. A confession. The last stage. The same stage the Whitmores used for charity. Cameras, smiles, applause. The Whitmores thrived in public. That meant the trap had to be public too. Elena leaned in. The Whitmore Foundation Gala, the memorial donation night. It's in 2 days. Marin nodded. Hope on the water. They use it to launder reputation. We use it to pin them down. A plan formed on the table, built from angles and timing. A controlled leak to force Vanessa into damage control mode. A meeting arranged under the pretense of supporting the Carter family. A private lounge at the gala. A hidden recorder with federal chain of custody. And a single line designed to trigger the one thing people like Marcus could not resist. Correction. The detail only the guilty would know. Elena's gaze locked on me. You can handle proximity. A bitter truth emerged. I buried my son yesterday. A pause. I can handle proximity. 2 nights later, the gala filled Whitmore Plaza's ballroom with donors and cameras and champagne. Blue lighting, soft music, banners of hope. Volunteers in matching shirts. A stage with a podium and a giant screen showing smiling families near boats on calm water. The Whitmore's favorite kind of story. Tragedy converted into branding. Marin's team moved like ghosts through the edges. Security staff swapped, cameras quietly redirected, exits monitored. Elena wore a simple black dress and carried a clutch with a hidden microphone. Marin wore the uniform of invisibility. Slacks, plain blouse, badge tucked away. I wore my only suit, the one my wife had bought for our anniversary years ago, still smelling faintly of cedar from the closet. My hands felt too big for the cuffs. My grief felt too big for the room. Vanessa Whitmore walked the crowd with perfect ease, greeting donors, touching elbows, smiling at cameras. Marcus stayed near the bar, scanning faces like a guard dog. A volunteer approached me with a badge. Carter family, special guest. The badge felt like an insult. Elena's voice in my earpiece, steady. Ready? Marin's signal came through. Move. A staff member guided me toward a private lounge behind the stage, a room decorated with framed photos of foundation events, all joy and applause. Vanessa waited inside, alone, posture composed. Her smile arrived instantly. Ray, thank you for coming. A difficult time deserves community. She gestured toward a couch. Sit, please. I sat. Vanessa's gaze studied my face, searching for weakness. A small table held water, tissues, and a folder labeled support package. A performance of care. Vanessa leaned forward, voice gentle. The foundation wishes to honor Caleb's memory. A donation toward Lily's education. Counseling support. Anything to ease the burden. Burden. The word pressed against my ribs. I forced my voice steady. Caleb left a voicemail after his funeral. Vanessa's smile held, but her eyes hardened. A pause. Grief creates echoes. No echo. A warning. A location. A key. Vanessa's expression cooled. Caleb involved himself with dangerous fantasies, corruption conspiracies, political paranoia. He needed help. A familiar tactic. Discredit the dead. Sanitize the living. I leaned forward. Federal already has the files. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. Federal. The word again. A long pause as she weighed angles. Then her smile returned, smaller. A misunderstanding then. People misinterpret things. People panic. Families unravel. A soft sigh. Ray, a private arrangement benefits everyone. It protects Lily from noise. It protects you from stress. It protects Caleb's memory from ugliness. Ugliness. A shield word. Vanessa slid the support folder across the table. A check sat inside. $50,000. A bribe wrapped in sympathy. Vanessa's tone stayed tender. Take it. Walk away from the rest. Live your life. Let the city heal. My hands stayed in my lap. Elena's recorder hummed quietly in her clutch outside the door, fed to Marin's system. Marin's team waited for the trigger. The trigger needed one statement that only the guilty could confirm. I held Vanessa's gaze. Unit 27 at Harbor Storage had 2 padlocks, new ones. Vanessa's eyelids barely flickered. A fraction. Enough. A hush of truth. Vanessa leaned back, smile unchanged. Storage facilities use new locks. Crime exists. Break-ins happen. I kept going. The locks appeared overnight, after the funeral. Vanessa's lips pressed together. The tension in the room tightened like a wire. I took a slow breath. And Marcus offered Caleb a boat ride. Vanessa's posture shifted, controlled but alert. Caleb loved the water. He feared it the week he died. Vanessa's smile thinned, a small pause. Then Vanessa's voice softened further, almost intimate. Ray, let this go. The phrase again, a command, not comfort. I reached into my inner pocket and pulled out a photo printout. Caleb beside Vanessa in the parking garage. I placed it on the table, the date visible. Vanessa looked at it without surprise. Caleb sought meetings. He wanted to feel important. He wanted leverage. A quiet admission of contact. I slid another item across. A transcript snippet from the garage video. The line about keeping it clean. Vanessa's face remained composed, but her eyes sharpened. Illegally recorded. A legal defense, automatic. I leaned forward, voice steady. Caleb's crash happened at 1:18 a.m. Vanessa's gaze stayed fixed, calm, a trap set. Marin's plan required a wrong detail. I continued. Near Dock Gate 6, Vanessa's expression held. I watched her eyes carefully. And the tow report listed the boat ramp at Pier 3. A lie. A deliberate mistake. The real crash location was near Gate 4, not 6. Caleb's own notes had made that clear. The impound paperwork showed it too. Vanessa's eyes flicked once, the tiniest crack. Then Vanessa's voice emerged, still smooth, but sharper at the edges. Gate 4. 2 words. A correction. A confirmation. The guilty could not resist correcting a detail that threatened to shift responsibility. Silence filled the lounge like a held breath. Vanessa realized too late. Her mouth closed. Her eyes widened a fraction. The door behind her opened. Marin Holt stepped in, badge visible now. Thank you. Vanessa's face turned pale. Marin held up a small recorder with a glowing light. Correction captured. Knowledge confirmed. Conspiracy and obstruction now on the table. Vanessa stood slowly, composure cracking. This is harassment. This is a setup. Marin's voice stayed calm. A setup requires a lie. You supplied truth. Vanessa's jaw clenched. Marin stepped closer. And Marcus? Vanessa's eyes flashed. Panic rose, then anger. Marcus did not arrive quietly. A commotion echoed from the hallway. Raised voices, security shifting. Marcus burst into the lounge, eyes wild, breathing hard. A man who had sniffed danger and chosen force. He froze at the sight of Marin. His gaze snapped to Vanessa, a fraction of betrayal. Vanessa's calm cracked, voice sharp. Do not speak. Marcus's gaze shifted to me, hate boiling under his skin. You. Marin's agents entered behind him, flanking the doorway. Marcus's chest rose and fell fast. A cornered animal, a man who had lived too long believing rules belonged to others. Marin's voice held authority. Marcus Whitmore, detained for questioning in an ongoing federal investigation involving fraud, bribery, obstruction, and homicide. Marcus's laugh came out harsh, humorless. Homicide. A boat accident from years ago. The word accident landed like a confession. Marin's eyes narrowed. A crash on a service road. That was the official story. Marcus's face twitched. Vanessa's eyes squeezed shut for a fraction of a second. Marcus's mouth moved again, anger overriding caution. Different stories for different audiences. That's how this city works. The room went very still. Elena's recorder outside the door caught every syllable, fed live to a secure system. Marin's voice stayed even. Different stories. A pause. Keep it clean. Marcus's jaw tightened. Vanessa's shoulders stiffened. Marin stepped closer, eyes locked on Marcus. Boat plan. Gate 4, harbor storage, 2 padlocks. You want to continue? Marcus's gaze flicked toward Vanessa, then back. Pride rose like a toxin. Caleb played hero. He got what heroes get. A chill ran through my bones. Marin's eyes stayed steady. Specifics. Marcus's breathing sped up. A man slipping. He came out to gate 4. He wanted to meet someone. He carried copies. He thought he could walk away. He couldn't. The road was empty. The truck hit the barrier. The water did the rest. Vanessa's face turned ashen. A confession, sliding out in pieces. Marin's hand lifted slightly. Agents moved in. Marcus's voice rose, fury bursting. Do it! Cuff me! This family built this city. You think a recorder changes reality? Marin's response landed cold. It already did. Cuffs clicked on. Marcus's face twisted, rage and disbelief. Vanessa's composure collapsed, her perfect mask fractured. This is not fair. Not fair. A phrase that tasted like privilege. Marin's team escorted them out through a side hall, away from cameras and donors. The gala continued outside, music still playing, unaware or pretending. I sat alone on the lounge couch, hands trembling, grief and relief colliding. Elena entered quietly, eyes wet. Captured. A nod. My throat tightened. Caleb's voice in the voicemail returned. The taps, the urgency. If this reaches you, the worst already happened. Maybe the worst had happened. Maybe the next part could be something else. The investigation unfolded like a slow collapse. A week later, headlines broke. Whitmore Foundation under federal probe. Port Authority official in custody. Judge recusal after donation links. Elena's work hit the city like a storm. Marin's office moved with warrants, seizures, interviews. The storage unit got opened legally, revealing backups and another folder. Ralston_payments. Detective Frank Ralston resigned within 24 hours, then got arrested 2 days later. Caleb's crash report got rewritten as homicide, a phrase I never expected to see beside my son's name. Lily's school received security briefings. Jenna moved temporarily to her sister's house. Marin arranged protective measures, quiet but firm. Months passed. Courtrooms filled, lawyers roared, cameras flashed, donors pretended shock. Marcus Whitmore tried arrogance at first, then bargains, then blame. Vanessa tried tears, then denial, then silence. The evidence held, the confession held. And Caleb's voicemail, his dead man's switch, became the spark that turned a polished empire into ash. On a gray morning, 11 months after the gala, I stood in the same cemetery where I had buried my son. The grass lay flat under frost. The stone looked too clean, too new. I placed a hand on it. Caleb Carter, beloved father, beloved son, beloved friend. No mention of whistleblower, no mention of hero. Heroes rarely get titles in stone. Behind me, footsteps crunched softly. Elena approached, coat buttoned, hair pulled back, eyes tired, a folder in her hands. Sentencing scheduled. Marcus, life, Vanessa, 25, Ralston, 10, others, various. My breath came out slow. Caleb. Elena's gaze softened. He built the trap. He ensured it triggered even after the funeral. That voicemail. It was an act of love. Love. A word grief had kept locked away. My phone buzzed. A message from Jenna. Lily wants to visit you. Today, okay? I looked down at the grave. A future existed, fragile but real. My fingers moved. Yes, bring her. That afternoon, Lily arrived in a purple jacket and sneakers with blinking lights. She carried her stuffed rabbit and a paper bag of cookies. She ran into my arms with a force that nearly knocked the air from me. Her small voice pressed against my chest. Grandpa, I heard Dad on the news. My throat tightened. Dad did brave things. Lily pulled back, eyes wide. Dad knew bad people. A hard truth for a child. Yes, Dad beat them. A child's logic, simple and fierce. Yes. Lily's gaze shifted toward the hallway where Caleb's framed photo sat on the console table. Dad left a message. My heart stuttered. You know about it. Jenna stood behind Lily, eyes wet. She overheard. She keeps repeating the time. 4:12. Lily nodded vigorously. 4:12. Like a secret code. A secret code. Caleb's taps. Two quick, one slow. I crouched to Lily's height, hands on her shoulders. Your dad left that message because he loved you. Because he wanted you safe. Lily's lip trembled. Dad coming back? A question that tore at my ribs. I pulled her into a hug, holding her gently but firmly, the way I wished I had held Caleb when he still had time. Dad stays in here. My hand pressed lightly against Lily's chest. And in stories, and in the good you do. Lily wiped her nose with her sleeve. Can I hear it? The voicemail. The voice that reached across a funeral. I nodded. We sat on the couch. Jenna beside Lily, my phone in my hand. I pressed play. Caleb's voice filled the living room, steady, urgent, real. Lily's eyes widened. Jenna covered her mouth. The taps sounded at the end. Lily's face lit with recognition. That's Dad. That's Dad. A child's certainty. A truth that no court could take. After the voicemail ended, Lily leaned into my side and held tight. Jenna's voice emerged quietly, controlled. He saved us. I looked toward the window where the late-day sun slid through bare branches. He saved the city, too. Jenna nodded. A long pause, then another truth. Caleb never stopped worrying about you. He always carried regret. Regret. A familiar companion. I swallowed. I carried it too. That night after they left, the house felt quieter than it ever had. Not the suffocating quiet of grief, but a different quiet, one filled with the knowledge that the truth had finally landed where it belonged. I walked into my study and sat at the desk. The grandfather clock ticked on. The phone lay still. I opened a drawer and pulled out a small envelope I had kept since Caleb's childhood. Inside sat a folded paper with his messy handwriting from a school project. My hero. He had written it when he was 9, after I fixed his bike chain and taught him to use a wrench without stripping the bolt. The paper described a father who worked hard and kept his family safe. I had never felt like a hero. Now I understood something. Heroes were not always the ones who lived. Sometimes heroes were the ones who built a message strong enough to survive death. Weeks later, a plain brown package arrived with a return address from the federal office. Inside sat Caleb's notebook, returned as personal property now that copies had been logged. A sticky note on top, written by Marin Holt. He made it impossible for them to bury this. He gave you a lever. You used it. I held the notebook in my hands, feeling the indentation of Caleb's pen, the pressure of his determination. A final page sat tucked in the back pocket. A letter addressed to Lily, sealed. Another dead man's switch, softer, meant for a future when the child could read. I did not open it. Some words belonged to the person they were meant for. Life moved forward in small steps. The Whitmore name disappeared from banners and scholarships. The foundation building got sold. The city council rewrote ethics rules. The Port Authority replaced directors. The judge tied to the case resigned. A machine of corruption lost its grease. Not all of it. Never all of it. But enough. In early summer, Lily's school held a careers day. Jenna invited me to attend. Lily wore a handmade badge that read, Carter Strong. Elena Park attended too, invited by the principal, her articles now part of journalism seminars. Maren Holt showed up unexpectedly, in plain clothes, standing quietly at the back. After the event, Lily ran across the gym floor and hugged Maren around the waist like she had known her forever. Maren looked startled, then softened, one hand resting gently on Lily's shoulder. Jenna watched with tears in her eyes, a small circle of protection built from tragedy. On the drive home, Lily stared out the window at the river. Her voice emerged suddenly. Grandpa. A pause. Dad knew he might not come back. My throat tightened. Yes. Dad still did it? Yes. Lily nodded slowly, processing something heavy. Dad brave. Yes. Another pause. Lily's voice turned quieter. Grandpa brave too. My hands tightened on the wheel. A lump formed in my throat. Brave. Maybe bravery looked like leaving a voicemail that could outlive a funeral. Maybe bravery looked like opening a storage unit door in the dark, trembling anyway. Maybe bravery looked like choosing truth over comfort even when comfort was all you wanted. That night, at 4:12 a.m., sleep broke again, fragile as glass. The phone stayed silent, but the time itself had changed. 4:12 was no longer only fear. It was a door, a message, a son reaching back through the worst day of a father's life, refusing to let the truth drown. If you ever feel underestimated, if you ever feel like powerful people can rewrite reality, remember this. One small file, one hidden key, one message delivered at the right moment can topple an entire empire. And sometimes, the voice that saves you comes from the one you already lost.